So I haven't talked about this publicly.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about it now, first on camera. My head of engineering became suspicious, and he started looking within, the logs. What happened the next few days was one of the scariest things that happened in my life. Both Google, our investors, received an email supposedly from me saying that I've resigned from the company.
Wow.
I lost people within my team. Our country manager, we lost him to COVID.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I was losing literally everything that I'd ever worked for.
You guys just got acquired. How much were you acquired for? What's up, everybody? My name is Benjamin Fernandez. I'm the founder and CEO of Nala. I'm here today in Dakar, Senegal with an exclusive with Paul Damilie. Paul is the co-founder and CEO of Appruve, a digital identity and verification service across 8 African countries. And recently they got acquired by Smile Identity. So we're gonna hear the exclusive today about the acquisition, his journey building, and where he's been throughout this path. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Benji.
Or as they say in Tanzania and Swahili, it's Karibu. What do they say in Ghana?
Akwaba.
Akwaba. Well, I thought Akwaba was like, what's up?
Akwaba is welcome.
Okay, welcome.
Yes.
So it works, right?
It works.
Nice. Now, Paul recently we hung out in Zanzibar a couple years ago. We were doing this meetup and looking at I know it sounds like we were in Zanzibar chilling. We weren't chilling. Gosh, we're probably gonna have to edit this part out of this video, but we'll just leave it at that. For all of you guys who start judging us, it's fine. Zanzibar is my home. It's Tanzania. Anyway, so we meet up as founders to discuss challenges that we face, but also work together for a sprint week and help each other out. So we were with Paul a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, actually.
Yes.
And really discussing what ways we can help each other out as founders. So I've known Paul for a couple years. I'm really happy today to getting this exclusive soundbite with what's going on with the acquisition. So congratulations, first of all.
Thanks, Benji.
You know what this means, right? It means everybody watching and myself, we're all going to get a free trip by Paul. So go and follow him on all his social media channels and message him, and we can get the free trip, right?
Yes.
So Paul, welcome to the show.
Yes.
Tell me about, for those who don't know you and don't know your background, where's home for you?
Well,
apart from the plane.
Okay.
He's always expanding his business in another country.
Yes. Well, I come from Ghana. Specifically, if you ask me where my hometown is, it's a place called Keta. Keta is a coastal town on the eastern part of Ghana in the Volta region. So that's where I come from. But I've lived most of my life in Accra and in the eastern region of Ghana, both schooling, living with my parents, and just being a Ghanaian.
How many siblings do you have?
Oh, okay. So I have 7 other siblings.
Okay.
I have half brothers as well as, younger siblings of mine, about 3 of them. Yeah.
And you're the oldest in the family?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of my mom.
Okay.
Yes. So, nice. And I have 3 other siblings. So we're 2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah.
So you grew up there, and then how did you even get to getting involved in the tech business? Walk me through that journey.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Well, mostly when I was growing up, I was always your typical science nerd. And so I'd spend a lot of time on my own, just reading, playing out. I always had a project that I was working on, right? And that really is what drove my interest in science, math, the entire STEM education. And most of that was what I basically studied throughout to about high school. After high school, I had really interesting experiences that exposed me to the world of technology, business, and then I think that was more or less my pivotal moment to make a decision to go into tech as a career.
So there's some classes you took in high school that got you curious about the technology industry.
Yeah. So first of all, in high school, the way education is structured in Ghana, you select topics based on broad themes, right? So one broad theme would be general arts. So you'd be interested in history, language, etc. Then you'd have like, we call it pure science. Then you'd be interested in biology, physics, mathematics, all of that. In my case, I studied agriculture, and in agriculture, you're doing a bunch of things, right? So you're studying maths, physics, biology. Then you're also studying business management. You're studying economics. You're studying animal husbandry. All of that, and all of that into one broad subject, agriculture. So I'd say that specific course part really exposed me to both worlds of business and science, and it was a really interesting experience.
So then from high school, then where'd you go?
Okay, so after high school, I had this 1 year gap where I had the opportunity to really discover myself, know who I am. Prior to that, what you typically do is to select the course that you'd study in university. So I applied to both public and private universities in Ghana, largely agricultural engineering, because that was really what I focused on. But during my 1 year gap, I decided to change.
So 1 year gaps aren't so common across the African continent within like African families. How did that happen for you?
In Ghana, typically at the time I was graduating, so we're talking about 2008, typically you wait for a year to hear your results and then apply to go to the university. So within that 1 year, you have to find something to do for yourself.
It's more common in Ghana.
Exactly, it's very common. Probably also in Nigeria, more in the WAEC region, West African Education Council region. And so this was basically my opportunity to discover myself. I was armed with all the knowledge in science, maths, engineering, and some business.
Yeah.
Within that year, I'd wanted to do an internship with my uncle who had a mechanic shop where I was living, CoFounders. That's in the eastern region of Ghana. And I told my dad about it, and he was like, no way I'm going to make my son go under some fitting, he wasn't in alignment with that idea. Yeah. So for me, I was disappointed, and I still had to look for something to do, right? And so one time I was looking through the papers, and I saw an advertisement by an insurance firm saying, hey, we're looking for salespeople, and you got to be minimum 18 years old. I had just 18. You need a minimum of an HND, that's like a higher national diploma, not exactly a university degree, but that was the starting point. I was like, maybe this will be a long shot, but let me try. I put in the application like literally the same day I saw it, and by next week I got a call. They were like, "Oh, you're Paul Damilie. Come over to the office. We want to prepare you for sales training." And for me, that was really like that moment. That's the opportunity to really learn how to sell, to talk to people, to convince people to buy something. If you know insurance, it's one of the most difficult things to sell
in Africa, especially.
Absolutely.
Bro, your competition is literally Jesus.
Yes. I had many interesting stories along the line being an insurance salesperson. But that was also the real opportunity for me to learn things about strategy, human relations, talking to people, convincing them, thinking through a funnel. All of those skills I learned during that 1 year. And I think it was probably what, gave me the trajectory to really pick up entrepreneurship. Mainly because I had to figure out strategy to sell. If you're selling to someone who is probably almost like your dad, right? Age 50 plus, and he knows you're like 19 years old. He won't really take you seriously. Who are you to tell me that I should be making a very important financial decision? Right. And what do you know? You just finished school, right? Yeah. So I had to figure out a strategy to convince these people, because obviously they could see that I was a young kid, right? Yeah. So one of the very first strategies I thought of was buying a stock of books from basically, they're motivational speakers, Albert and Comfort Okran. They write a lot about financial management and all of that. And they had a reputation in Ghana, right? Yeah. And so my strategy was that, well, why don't I sell those books instead? And then, you get people hooked into the idea of personal financial management. Yeah. And with insurance as one of those, products that they can put in their financial portfolio.
Yeah.
And I'd really make a point that, hey, you should read this in the next 2 weeks. And trust me, it's going to be life-changing.
Yeah.
Literally a motivational speaker.
Trust me, bro.
Yes. I know. And it really worked. Interestingly, it worked. A lot of people call me 2 weeks after and say, did you say you sell insurance? I've been thinking about it. And that was like my moment to really kill it and close a deal.
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
so that was a lot of learning experiences.
So you go from this job in insurance where you're figuring out a new sales strategy, then you go to university.
Well, so right between that and going to university, I had a lot of time on my hand. And so I'd spend time in an internet cafe on YouTube. And one time on YouTube, I discovered the story of Mark Zuckerberg by CNBC. You know, they told all this whole story about, you know, how he started and how he got to where he is. And it was very inspirational for me. So I got into this rabbit hole. Almost every day, I have to make sure that I buy time at the internet cafe, watching YouTube stories of all these founders, Steve Jobs, Wozniak, like Cuban, Mark Cuban, all of them, literally. And for me, I was convinced that this is what I wanted to do. Growing up, I always wanted to be an inventor, a scientist, engineer. So if I found myself in that space, that is really what I would say it would be fulfilling, because it gave me the opportunity to impact lives and change lives, right? And so right about that time, I began to realize that to be an entrepreneur really means a bunch of things. One, if you want to be involved in engineering, science, and make your impact there, you need a technical competence. But you also need to be a salesperson. You need to be a people's person. And all these skills, how am I going to get them? If I studied agricultural science, I would be very technical and one-sided in terms of the skill sets. So I made a decision, actually, to change my course and study banking and finance in school. So between that time, I applied to a bunch of private universities, because I was always not convinced about public universities in Ghana giving me that kind of training. And so I ended up in Radford University in Ghana, which had an entrepreneurial curriculum focused on giving you core banking and finance, skill sets, but at the same time also training you entrepreneurially. And so that was basically the decision I made and prepared for that until I got to uni the next year.
Okay. So talk to me about uni to Appruve.
Right. So it was also really important that the university that I attended had to be in the right location. I.e., at the time, a lot of Ghana's tech ecosystem was just buzzing. There were a lot of hackathons. There were a lot of interesting tech events always happening, and I would always attend them. And most of those events were concentrated in the East Legon area, like Silicon Valley, where you had a lot of startups there. There was tech incubators like Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology. And so I would literally attend a lot of those programs, go find founders and talk to them, interview them, and just be inspired and be within their network, right? And that really was what I did for most of my school time. While in school, I was also inspired to start businesses. So one of the very interesting things we did was myself and my partner, we built an accounting system for Ghana's largest pizza chain, Papa's Pizza. And that's one of the most interesting things. I also had the opportunity within that school period to work in investment banking and be exposed to the challenges of banking. I worked with EcoBank's investment arm. And so I was really exposed to the entire, value chain of what happens, within the banking industry. I also had the opportunity to actually do retail business. So myself and my business mentor at the latter parts of my university days, we are importing isotonic drinks. Those isotonic drinks were supposed to be competitors to energy drinks, right? And we literally carried we imported 1 ton container of these drinks, carried these drinks in the back of our boot, going from one retailer to the other, signing deals, trying to do distribution. We did very well with our first container. Second container was a mess. we couldn't sell a lot. We learned a lot about the industry.
So you had all these side hustles going when you had your main job?
Yes, absolutely. While also in school. And these experiences were really what shaped me up. I would also be involved in entrepreneurial competitions, pitching on behalf of the school. And it just exposed me to, an entire entrepreneurial ecosystem, which really built me up.
So how did you decide to start Appruve?
Right. So right after uni, I had the opportunity to get into the Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology. That is where really I would say I built the ropes of, tech entrepreneurship and learning the skill sets that are necessary to be a tech entrepreneur. At the time, my batch was a combination of Ghanaians and Nigerians. We're the first international batch in there. And once we completed, in how it happens in MESS is that you pitch, you form a team and you pitch a solution. So at that point in time, myself and 2 other co-founders, we pitched a solution called Loyster. And Loyster essentially is a business that enables small businesses to retain their customers, more like a loyalty solution, right? And so I was involved in the business of Loyster for almost 9 months. I wasn't exactly excited about our trajectory, obviously for multiple reasons. And so right about that time, I started exploring and speaking with people within the banking sector. I used to organize fintech events called Next Bank and that was probably one of the very first ecosystem events that brought bankers and fintechs and the entire community together. And interacting with all those people, KYC was probably like the most running team in all the conversations. So it also it brought me back to experiences I had while selling insurance. At the time I could typically sell I could do 10 insurance deals and submit it to my manager, who would have to report to Accra or HQ. And when he reports to HQ, the expectation is that all of these people will be approved to, begin to pay premiums and all of that. But I'll just have like 5 of those saying, oh, we've approved 5. The other 5, we are not sure about their ID documents. The system is not really showing up their data, so I'm sorry. And it pissed me off all the time because I was making money per client, right? And so if I brought 10 people and you take away 5 of that, I'm not making enough money, basically. And so that experience, remembering that whilst going through all these interviews with all these people, just made me remember that, this challenge of KYC is very consistent across industries. Insurance, whilst I worked in there, I experienced it. In banking, I experienced it. And so I was just like, everything is lining up for me to focus on this problem and try to, really solve it.
So you really focused on deciding to work on KYC and identity verification because you spoke to all these bankers who were your friends. And there was a common pattern that you kept seeing showing up in these meetings over and over again. And so that common problem pinched you. You're like, you know what? Like, I need
I've
to do
experienced it before. This is not something I don't know because, I was always at the cups of onboarding customers in every, opportunity I had to work within financial services. And I was always exposed to that problem.
So you were seeing this problem pattern popping up over and over again. How did you decide that this was the business you wanted to build with the co-founders you chose to build it with?
Right. To be honest with you, I haven't talked about my co-founder journey publicly because I actually had 2 sets of co-founders across the lifetime of this business. The first co-founder, technical co-founder, was the guy I worked with in university to build that accounting system, right? I knew him. He was one of the few technical people I knew within my network that I had worked with, actually. So I was like, hey, this is the idea I have. I think that if we can build this API and make it modern, accessible to people, various, financial services, then, we can really build something here. And he was like, yeah, I've been working with you, let's do it. So this was basically, the decision was just based on, I've worked with you before, I know you, and yeah, let's just get it done, right? And so I worked with this co-founder sometime from 2017 through to probably like September 2018. We built an initial MVP. He was a technology whiz, basically. He got his first coding deal when he was like 14 years old. And so he's always someone I admired, from his technical, abilities. And I was like, let's do this. Let's build this company. So he was happy to do it. We're excited. I focus more on customer development, a bit of product development. He focused on building engineering. And within that 1 year, when we're doing interviews and speaking to various leads, we also had the opportunity to enter a bunch of programs. One of them was the DFS labs.
We were both part of that.
Yes, absolutely. And for us, that even sort of like really entrenched our conviction about the problem, because you had Steven and Dr. Jake, invite us and say, hey, we really believe in you guys. You've already proven to us that you understand the ecosystem, the right people to be speaking with. But one thing that really changed around our model, and that was when we met Ben Lyon of Kopo, now Hover, and we met Hilda Mora also. They were like, look, I also need this thing you're building here. We need it in Kenya. This thing you're building here, we need it in other markets. And they all impressed on us to actually think about a solution that is Pan-African. We're like, we've not even figured out Ghana. We've not figured out Ghana. So they really challenged us to start think about how to approach this infrastructure, right? And so what we spent a lot of time doing was, one, we wanted to figure out how do we access data and intuitively bring that data within our ecosystem. We spent some time speaking with the identity authorities in Ghana, and at that time, my co-founder was a very diminutive guy, really looking really small, and myself also looking really young. I don't have a mustache. I've not grown that, I would go in front of decision makers, and they would be like, why are you kids doing this? Like, go find something else, get a job. Why are you doing this? We won't give you access. Or like, no problem. We'll go build something and come show it to you, and we'll see what you think. And so we essentially built the infrastructure. We built demo apps, just going around showing bankers, showing our data partners that this is what we envision and this is what could possibly happen. We even had Dr. Jake fly down to Ghana to go into meetings with us so that we have someone senior. Who,
prove credibility.
Yes, exactly. And all of those things paid off, because eventually we worked with a data partner in Ghana to get access to like the passport, driver's license, insurance,
national ID.
And that was the beginning of really making APIs available, especially for fintechs that were developing solutions at that time, trying to build digital solutions. Prior to that, you have to go meet these government people,
one by one,
write contracts, all those kind of things. But the ease of doing that was just phenomenal. And that was the beginning.
So then how did that go to your new co-founders?
Yes. So I haven't talked about this publicly. I'm going to talk about it now, first on camera. Right about sometime around July 2018, we had the opportunity to get into two major accelerators. One was the blockchain and machine learning accelerator of Google, which meant that we spent some time in San Francisco. There were various startups. I actually got the opportunity to meet Ann Boden of Starling Bank. It was just a phenomenal, we are just like the earliest startup within that whole group. There was Gojek, CEO, I met Aliu. So it was really inspiring for us. At that same time, we also got into startup bootcamp. the Afritech in Cape Town, Zach and Philip, and their program. Unfortunately, a bunch of things started happening. Now, my co-founder for a very long time, he was a consultant. I mean, that's how he made money, right? With his skills. Once we started getting into all these accelerator programs, what it meant for us was we're getting access to like free cloud services, free, email hosting and all of that. At the time, we weren't really paying ourselves what you call a proper salary. It's more like a stipend at the end of every month. So after some time working on this project, my co-founder wasn't really excited that he was spending so much of his time, doing this thing and not making like significant amount of money like we did with, the previous ones. So for him, he made the decision to actually leverage off some of these resources that we already had to, build his consulting business on the side, which I didn't know. Wow. At the time, when we got a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through DFS Lab, we had the opportunity to actually start to build out a proper business, hire people. So at the time, I hired the person who is my current CTO, Lord Bruce. He was also from Mest. I previously worked with him on Loystar. And Kwame Yeboah, also from Mest, who came in as a product lead. So these were employees, not co-founders, right? For a long time, my previous co-founder using all these resources for his consulting, I didn't know really, because I wasn't so technically competent to be monitoring all of that.
So just to clarify, your co-founder was using all these resources you guys got as a company without you knowing, hiding behind like your back for this and using it to make more money on himself on the side.
Yes. And I only got to know because of the new people we had hired, right? So Lord came in as the head of engineering. Kwame came in as head product lead, right?
So when and how did you realize your co-founder was using company resources behind your back and profiting of it separately without you knowing as the founder and CEO of the company?
So our head of engineering, he was doing some transition of infrastructure when we were in the Google program, right? We had this access to an awesome product manager from Google. We had access to engineering talent from Google, and they were literally helping us to figure out how to use GPC on our data infrastructure. What it meant was that the head of engineering needed deeper level of access to our infrastructure. He probably got like a second tier access, but he kept on requesting for more access from my co-founder.
Former co-founder,
And he would just like respond angrily. I was like, "You're just an employee. Why do you need this level of access?" He would report to me and I'd be like, "Don't worry, I would speak with him and I'll definitely speak with him," but it didn't yield anything. So at this point, I wasn't suspicious, to be honest with you. I didn't think he was hiding anything. I just thought he was being security conscious, right? But my head of engineering became suspicious, and he started looking within, the logs and what he had access to, and he came back and one time he was like, "Look, I need to talk to you about something. I see all kinds of activity on your infrastructure that doesn't look like it's activity dedicated to what you are doing."
Wow.
Right? I think your resources are being siphoned. And I was like, okay. Let me ask my co-founder. Maybe it's just a miscommunication or something, right? So at this point, he was supposed to be with us in San Francisco, but he never committed to getting his visa early on time and all of that. So he didn't end up being in San Francisco. However, head of engineering had done that job, so he was the one who was with me in San Francisco, right? And so I called him in Accra. Hey, let's get on a phone call. The head of engineering is monitoring some activity that he believes is dangerous to our ecosystem. So I got on the phone, we discussed everything, And his first reaction was like, he went off. His main argument was that, why do you trust someone who is an employee who just came within our company more than me? He said, yes, he's using these resources, but he has a lifestyle to maintain. He has needs of his own, and so that's why he has to use these resources. He's been with me for a long time. This is something that I should understand. For me, this was like, within all the years that we've worked together, this was our first major conflict.
Wow.
I was like, dude, this is no longer consulting. We've taken people's money. We are responsible for, reporting to them, and we need to look the best. We need to practice all the best standards. So here's what I want us to do. Just, stop all those activity you're running our infrastructure for other people, and let's move on. There would be consequences, but I don't know what those consequences are, at least not for now, And that's what I said. What happened the next few days was one of the scariest things that happened in my life. Clearly, he wasn't happy that I even had this kind of conversation with him. He took a bunch of decisions. He literally began taking everyone who had access to the infrastructure off, right? That's myself. He even, cut access to my email.
Wow.
Yes, so I couldn't communicate. Lord then became very proactive. He was like, he's going to take over our entire stack and infrastructure if we do not do something now. So he also, with the access he had, he started, basically taking some of the things that we had. At the time, we only had a Ghana entity, right? And so when I was in San Francisco, I just set up a Delaware entity. And this was exactly at the time this was happening. Yeah. So I didn't add him on board as a co-founder to register him, right? So our US entity basically was only me as the director. In terms of our infrastructure, we got all these new access from AWS, Google, and so we sort of like set up, recloned everything, to be within our ecosystem. The things that he had taken over, we couldn't access it, right? And so the next few days was just crazy. We were closing deals with investors, and some of our investors both Google, our investors, received an email, supposedly from me, saying that I've resigned from the company.
Wow. He sent an email.
Yes.
Using your email.
Yes.
To your investors, saying that you have resigned from your own business.
Yes. You could imagine what happened. I had my investors call me up, really angry and livid on phone. It was a very scary moment because I was like, I didn't even know what was happening. Like, I was confused. Why would this person who's so nice to me, very warm to me, connected me to so many people, just call me and start lambasting me on phone? Then he was like, just check your email. So I decided to, check my email, try to access it. I couldn't access it. He sent me a screenshot
of the email.
And I was like, oh my God. You can't believe someone who has literally signed a safe, and the next day you send emails that you're resigning.
Bro.
It's crazy. I cried. I was literally shaking. I was like, oh my God, this guy has destroyed everything that we achieved. Reputation. He sent emails to some of our early clients we were about to close deals with. I was in San Francisco. I just went back to South Africa for the SBC program, and I was receiving calls from banks, or like, what is going on with your company? We're about to sign deals and onboard as your customers, and you're telling us that you've resigned, that you are no longer involved in the business. Reputationally, it was so damaging.
Wow. I
felt like I was losing literally everything that I'd ever worked for. And it was really difficult. It was a difficult moment for me. I cried a lot. I just didn't know what to do. So on the engineering side, Lord managed to help us salvage, some infrastructure. We spoke with our lawyer in Ghana, and she helped us think through a path how we could, exit such a situation. At this point, all investors who are committed to SAFEs didn't wire the money.
They didn't?
No, they didn't.
So when the investors got the email, that was a fake email that your co-founder sent to everybody saying that you were resigning.
Yeah.
They pulled out and didn't wire the money to you.
Yes, they pulled out. They didn't want to be involved in such a whole thing happening.
Wow.
It wasn't something they wanted to be. Apparently, it just happened that same investor had also gone through a situation with some, previous startup. Yeah. So for him, he was just like, I don't want to be involved in your shit.
Yeah.
Let me just stay out of it. Yeah, I didn't send you guys money, so it's good. I only signed a safe. I can cancel the safe at any point. We had a really low balance. We're just running on money that SBC had given us, and we had hired people. How am I going to pay all these people? We had, been running POCs and ready to, get them go commercial and live, and all of them began backing out because of this apparent risk, Mind you, banks don't work with just anyone. So if you've built that reputation and you've gotten to that point where you are ready to go commercial and something as big like this comes up, it won't. So the lawyer in Ghana helped us find a path to get out of this situation. Obviously, what that meant was that some settlements had to be done. The good thing was that I could resign from the Ghana entity and say I'm not involved, because I was a director in both entities, and that was what was kept on linking us together. Yeah. So I resigned from the Ghana entity. I'm a full director of our US entity alone, and basically
made a new entity locally in Ghana.
Yeah, made a new entity in Ghana and held that under the Delaware company.
Do you still speak to your former co-founder?
I don't know where he is.
Yeah. If he was here in the room right now, what would you tell him?
You lost out big time, man. You could have been patient, but you lost out big time. Yeah.
Tell me about building is hard. Recently, you grew the business, you raised some money, grew it across multiple African countries. So for those of you who are tuning in now, as I said at the beginning, Paul runs ID verification service across the African continent. He operates in 8 countries where he enables technology companies, banks, and other financial services or other tech businesses to verify and validate identification for people that they'd like to sign up, whether it's service partners or so on, customers that they're trying to sign up to their product. So they have an API that's available for people. Recently, they just got acquired by Smile Identity, which is one of the largest largest Pan-African Smile, I can't even speak today, verification services across the continent. And we're going to talk about the exit right now. So first of all, congratulations on the exit.
Thanks.
What surprised you the most as an African founder when you were exiting your business to an acquisition that was making people money?
I think that, when you're working with people over time, there are various aspects of who they are that they show you, right? And so when I'm talking about people, various stakeholders within a company, it could be your investors, could be your co-founders, could be your employees, could be your customers, all these stakeholders. And at every stage of your interaction and stage of growth in your company, you get to see another side of these stakeholders. For me, I think the biggest revelation was that your partners, your investors care about different things whilst you grow as a business. And you must always be equipped to meet these needs at each stage. Otherwise, you could lose it. The acquisition gave me a really good opportunity to understand what my investors really cared about, what my customers also really cared about, and what my partners really cared about. And we learned a lot, throughout that process. I can talk, detail about that.
So I want to hear more. So, you guys just got acquired. How much were you acquired for?
At the moment, I can't talk about it publicly, but there's some rumors online, close to it, but I can't, get on camera.
Yeah. Did the investors make money on the investment?
Yes. Between 2 to 3x.
What they invested?
Yes.
Nice.
There are some of them that invested really close to exit. So
yeah,
they made good money.
Nice. So talk to me about. You said there was some process. Like I'm sure an acquisition is challenging. Paperwork goes on for a long period of time. Tell me about that.
So even before you make that decision to say, hey, we're getting acquired, there's a relationship that exists between you and the company that's acquiring, right? So for a very long time, I had always been speaking with the CEO of Smile. Like we always had this, we call it check-ins on the industry, right? Yeah. We'll get on a call and talk about the industry, where it's going. I'll sometimes tell him that, I think the way you guys are approaching the industry just doesn't make sense. It could get intense sometimes, but the general goal of that call was to just learn about what we are doing together in the industry and the paths we are taking. And
so you and Mark, the founder of Smile, would have catch-up calls here, and they just like share learnings and so on.
Yes. At the back of my head, sometimes I'll think, Paul, you are really stupid. Why are you doing this? You're talking with your competitor always. Yeah. But in hindsight, it was probably like one of the best things I did. In fact, if you think of it, it was an exit strategy on a very tactical level, because we had the opportunity to integrate APIs together, pursue customers together, pursue opportunities together throughout all the years, and that's what basically led us to start thinking about possibly building one entity to go after this problem. Yeah.
Tell me about the moment you decided and said, you know what, fine, let's join forces and build this business together.
At the time, we were running out of money. We had like maybe 5 months runway, and we had multiple challenges. We had challenges with infrastructure, data partners being stable. We had growing pains actually, because especially during the pandemic, we grew really fast. We literally signed like a bank in like less than 4 weeks, which really doesn't happen that much. Yeah. And so we had all this pressure to maintain a certain standard of service, and it meant injecting more capital into it, meeting compliance needs, which means spending, to meet all those. So between my co-founders then, we had a lot of debates. It was like, do we go out to raise funding to continue what we're doing? Or we should really look within this challenge and not think of it as just an issue of money will help you solve the problem. For us, at that point, I told my co-founders that the problem we're trying to solve is not just an issue of money. Fundraising is a challenge for every founder, and you've got to do it. But it's also a bunch of things that maybe among the three of us as co-founders, necessarily we don't have that. Let's say reputation when it comes to fundraising. But we did have other things like, we're good with compliance, we understood products, and we're really good at that. So we asked ourselves the question, should we go through the painful process of fundraising or look at other opportunities? We were constantly getting offers from different entities in the UK, in the US, and on the continent. So these opportunities were always there, and we'd always talk about it. Yeah. It was always a debate between the co-founders. And eventually we came to a conclusion that maybe we should look at the path of a merger or an exit. And as co-founders, we decided that this is what we're going to do and would stick to it. We didn't consult our investors at that point. Also at that point, it was a lot of firefighting. Yeah. both personally in our lives or as co-founders, and then, with the business also. So we all had our minds in different, places, and we all wanted to end up take off some pressures. So let's take some money off the table. We could have done that by, raising around and doing a secondary. But we thought maybe at that point in time, we just thought the easier route would be to do the exit. And it was justified because we had all the options on the table were really interesting ones. So, yeah.
Nice. So now you're fully acquired by by Smile Identity.
Yeah.
So how long are you working with Smile? Is there like a clause that you're going to spend a certain amount of time with them? And
yes, I definitely, as co-founders, we still have significant stake within the business, right? And so we're still involved within the business. If you stay on, then you have like some time to spend. Then you hit, that half point, and you can decide to move on or cash out.
What do you think of it?
For me, the way I think about it is that when I started out to solve, the problems within the identity space, at the point of exit, I don't think I've concluded that that work.
Yeah.
So for me, it was so important and it was part of the negotiation that I'm still involved within that process, building and guiding the direction, the vision that we share, that common vision to solve the challenges in identity. So I would say I'd figured out the part, but probably it was like 30% built, right? And so I have to continue that work in Smile. I still have significant equity, so that's money I have to take off the table at one point in time. I can't leave it and just, leave. And I believe that within the next 2 to 3 years, we can build the business to become a unicorn, and that would be good for everybody involved in the business. So I'm still committed to doing that. I currently lead the international expansion team, and it's still a lot of what I used to do. I'll travel across Africa, meet government people, negotiate deals to access data. That is what I'm doing with Smile.
Nice.
And also working on special projects internally within the company.
Nice. Yeah. Super cool. Towards the end of 2021, you took some personal time off from work. What happened?
Yeah. It was a very turbulent time in my life. I had experienced various events, Prior to that, I'd lost my dad, right? And this was probably like 5-6 years ago. So what that made me basically was the breadwinner of home, taking care of my siblings. If you're in Africa, black tax. So that in itself I had a lot of pressures, right? And so my mom, my siblings were really demanding. It's normal, but I just didn't have the capacity and the headspace to meet all those needs at the time. So it was really, weighing on me as an individual, my confidence, not being able to meet all these, needs. That was one major part of it, of the challenges I was facing. The other bit also was that within that time, as co-founders, we had to make very important decisions within the company. One of it was, deciding to exit. Part of it was also just the direction of the company and the strategy to take. We weren't so aligned on some of these things, so personally also it was challenging, agreeing on things with co-founders. It was tough, but, we had to see it through. That was also another thing that sort of like hit me, because for a very long time we had been aligned on a whole lot, but, when we started having major disagreements around our approach, strategy, and all of that, personally, it really hit my confidence, right? The other bit of it was also just personally as an individual. I was in a relationship and a whole lot of things happened, right? um, um, that impacted me personally. I lost people within my team. Our country manager, we lost him to COVID.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for Uganda, country manager for Uganda. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. And so it was really difficult. It was all these things happening
At the same time.
at the same time.
How do you had this country manager that you hired, they were on your team, and then they pass away through COVID.
Yeah.
How do you have that discussion with your team after that happens?
We didn't know what to do. Like, as co-founders and, talking with the rest of the team, we just didn't know how to approach it. Even how to engage his family. It was just a very difficult moment for all of us. And luckily, we had good investors who really helped us think through a bunch of things, like how do you relate with the family that's left behind? How do you talk to the rest of the team to get the motivation to keep on going? How do you handle any kind of legal complications that comes out of it? Because our country manager then was also a part of our business, the local requirements for Uganda. And we had made a lot of progress with him. He was well connected within the industry. We did a lot of work, but he's not there to sign the paper. So a bunch of things just came to a halt. And for me and the rest of the team, it was just so challenging that we've made all this progress. And the person that, was really integral to us succeeding just,
Passes.
Yeah. And personally, as a friend, it was difficult. So at this point in time, you have all of these things happening. And because of the intensity of all the challenges, some of them we could, figure out solutions, but others I just couldn't, especially on the personal side. I just couldn't figure out solutions, especially dealing with events happening at home with family. I didn't have solutions to them. So it was impacting my productivity generally. Well, at the time, we were really going through a bunch of compliance works with multiple regulators, and that whole intensity just was too much for me. So I had to take a break. I had to take a break for almost 3-4 months. Told the team that, look, I can't handle this pressure. It's just too much.
What was the reaction from your investors when you told them you need to take a break? As a VC-backed company.
Yeah. It was mixed reactions, right? Some of them were like, dude, you've been at this for long. Like, you deserve a break. If this is what you have to do, make sure you put in the right systems that say that the business is not dependent on your presence, right? I was really lucky because my co-founders stepped up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they managed the business. For a long time, you'll be thinking that, oh, wow, there's so much centered on you because you are the face of the business. Right. Everybody sees that. But we also did a good job of putting in processes, systems that really allowed us to keep on running the business if I wasn't present in any way. And I'm really proud of the work both the co-founders and the team that, whilst I left to take this break.
Yeah. You've talked to me personally about some of the challenges and struggles with mental health. What perspective has this shaped on you as you look being an African tech founder with your own mental health challenges that you faced?
I think that if you're an African founder, you really need to pay attention to the people you bring onto, this journey that you are going on, i.e. investors particularly, because they are the people that you report to the most, right? If you're in a situation where you have investors who don't get or understand some of the local nuances that you face, well, yes, you have to do the work to help them understand, but there's also at the back of your mind, you're scared. You're like, these guys might not take me seriously. It would look like I'm always giving excuses for things that they think should be normal, right? Like having financial pressures as an founder, and you are not able to take care of these family needs. And one time I had a conversation with an investor who is not necessarily an African. He was like, why are you burdening yourself with all these problems? I think it's self-inflicted.
Yeah, I've had that one too. I've had an investor tell me, like, why are you worried about your family's problems? That's them, and you are separate from the family. And I was like, bro.
You don't get it. You only need to experience it to understand it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are some of them who are okay to listen to you and sort of like try to understand. Others who just dismiss it and be like, dude, you're not serious.
Yeah.
You know. So there was always that fear, that resistance. And for a very long time, I had to sort of like, some of the challenges I was going through, I just had to keep it to myself. But it just, you can't keep, bottling everything. It will explode at one point in time. For a very long time, I've always believed that I'm the kind of guy who can handle a lot of pressure. But at this point in my life, it was unlike anything I had experienced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the idea of selecting the right kind of partners who have some cultural sensitivity, also, not only, picking them just on business lines, but as inclusive as possible. Try to think about all the reasons why I'm pursuing this investor and why I want him to partner up with me to build this business. It's so critical. And I think a lot of founders need to really think about that.
With more context.
Yeah.
Paul, what matters to you most in life and why?
I think that, after my dad's burial, like 10 years ago in my hometown, I was surprised about what my hometown looked like. It was this beautiful place with beaches, some of the best beaches you get, right?
And I'll save my comment as a Tanzanian on that one for right now, but
we'll get there.
we'll get there. Go on.
So when I was at my dad's funeral, I was so livid and angry. I was like, Dad, why didn't you bring me here a lot more? That's how I felt. But at the same time, you'd also look around your environment and you'd see poverty. You'd see that irrespective of the natural resources and abundance that you have, people aren't able to live the best of their lives. And so, it got me really thinking through a lot of things. One, who do I think of as my own people? Where do I want to see them? But more so, if I make an initiative to impact their lives, what would that look like, in a generation's time, in a century? So I'm very obsessed about seeing the outcome of impact that I make. Any initiative that I, invest time and effort in, I really care about what that would look like in the future. Obviously, I can't live forever.
Yeah.
But that also what that's telling me a bunch of things. It means you must keep yourself healthy as much as you can. Create boundaries, but healthy boundaries, and just focus on the things that you care about. I do care about prosperity of Africans in general. I really want to see that all the combined efforts, all these startups, efforts trying to change industries and all of that. I really want to see that in the next 50 years, what impact did we make? Was it just, a bunch of things that we did, vibes, or it really made an impact? And we can look back and say, whoa, we did something, I care about that. So I'm making all the efforts to, make impact, but at the same time, make sure that I take care of myself long enough to see the outcome of those impacts. And I really hope that it will be a bright future, that the future generation will be able to point back to all of us and say, these people pioneered this, and that's why we can achieve what we are achieving today.
If your dad was here with us right now in this room, what would you tell him?
I would say, thank you, Dad. Thank you for being very liberal. Dad was always liberal. He allowed me to explore, and that really was what built my ability to be curious and think about problems. At the same time, I think Dad left a whole lot of responsibility. I'll be like, Dad, why did you? Like, you could have done this better, you know? But I think overall, he'll be proud of me. And I would say, hey, I believe I made you proud. What do you think?
Nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to a quick fire round of questions.
Yes.
So Paul has traveled to many countries in Africa, probably way more than most founders I know put together. He's the master of meeting government officials and finding these deals, getting these government contracts in for KYC, ID verification, and being able to build his business. Paul, favorite country in Africa for rest?
Don't take it against me, but I did love Zanzibar. Like, I discovered Sao Tome and Principe. It's just 1 hour flight from Accra off the coastal Gulf of Guinea.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, better than Zanzibar? Answer very carefully.
Yes. Listen. This is what makes it beat Zanzibar. I think the people are awesome.
Yeah. Wow, yo, this is shots fired at me as a Tanzanian. This is basically said I'm not awesome, but you know what? It's cool. We'll leave that one for after the recording is over, and we'll sort that out then. Wow.
Yeah, but I love Zanzibar. I had a bunch of experiences in Sao Tome. Yeah. I've started a small foundation there to train islanders.
Yo, that's what happens when you do an exit. You see, guys doing foundation now. Some of us, no foundation. Just work on the next salary and figure it out.
Yes. I had multiple experiences. I met a bunch of young kids, no opportunity. Island life is really difficult. You don't even have a bordering nation to escape to, right? So it's just you're stuck on this island and no opportunities. But like, I played a game of chess with a young chap, and she beat me like 10 times. Wow. And I was like, why would this smart person not have access? Yeah. At one point in my life, I had access. I stood on the shoulder of someone to build what I have built to date. So yeah, I just decided that I'll train a bunch of people in English. They speak Portuguese, so they're even more disadvantaged, right? Yeah. They can't connect with the rest of the ecosystem, which is largely English speaking. So we're basically giving them a scholarship in English language. Wow. After that, then we train them in software engineering.
Nice. Very cool. Very important question. We are now in Dakar, Senegal. Okay. Yes. You are from Ghana. Yes. Your neighbor is also with Nigeria. Honest question. Be honest here. You have to tell the truth. Okay. Which country in Africa has the best jollof rice?
This is a very easy question for me because
answer honestly. Don't just answer because you're Ghanaian. No. Say the truth.
It's easy, and I came to that realization like 3 years ago. Maybe Ghanaians might not be love it, but like I think Chebujan, which is Senegalese jollof, is the original jollof. That's what I'm saying. It's the original jollof. No one should misquote me. It is the original.
Yeah, but are you saying it's the best?
I said it's the original.
No, you're not answering the question. This guy is such a politician. Answer the question, bro.
It is though. If something is the original, you would always go back to it, wouldn't you?
So answer the question. So are you saying that Ghanaian, Senegalese jollof is better than Ghanaian jollof?
I said Chebujan is the original jollof, and I love it. It's
so
nice.
Yes. You've not answered the question.
I just answered you.
Wow, you're worse than most politicians I know, man. This guy. Wow. Well, maybe there's a career in politics for our boy Paul right here, man. This guy's like swerving. You watch sports and play sports?
Yes. I play badminton and squash.
What do you watch?
I watch football mostly.
Very important question. Ronaldo or Messi?
Yeah. That's a very... Honestly, Ronaldo.
Hey, he's one of the only people on this show who's ever said Ronaldo. He deserves a handshake.
I mean, I like take away performance on the pitch. For me, it's the off-pitch things that maybe because it's also language barrier. But Ronaldo is Portuguese speaking, but he speaks English too, and he makes things like he's really the kind of person that when you watch all his off-pitch antics, you love who he is. He's able to reach more people. Unlike Messi. Messi is just Spanish, Yeah, people love him as but I don't see a lot of his off-pitch life. Like, I can't connect or relate to it as compared to Ronaldo. So, yeah.
Paul, this is really important for me. I need to know this answer. What is your favorite country in East Africa?
Yeah, my God. Now I'm going to get into trouble with a whole bunch of friends all over. Yes, Tanzania.
Hey!
I give it to you.
A win is a win.
I
A
give
win
it to you.
is a win. This is my first win today.
I love my Kenyans. They have a very important part in my life.
Again, the politician comes through again. Paul, I've been really inspired learning about your story today and journey you've been on. I know it's not been an easy one with everything that you've done. I'm very proud of you with the tough moments that have built the company to where it is today. So I hope you get also some time to rest as well, given the acquisition is completed, but also really look at what's next.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Paul Asante Sana, as we say
Thanks,
in
Asante Sana.
Tanzania.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
For being on the show
also.
today.
Yeah.
And that's it for our session with Paul. Go and check out what they do with Appruve, now with Smile Identity. And maybe soon we'll have Mark on the show to discuss what's going on with Smile Identity. Thank you so much for tuning into this Build Our Africa Speaker Series session. My name is Benjamin Fernandez, and I'll see you in the next session. Ciao, ciao.